Please welcome Sandy.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I have been a Scottish Highland dancer for, it sort of dates me a bit, but I started when I was 5. How about that? So about 35 years or so. And it has been a trip that has really launched me into what I do for my career. That started out with just as a little side hobby. And so now what I do is I coach Highland dancers around the world to be a little bit healthier with their training, a little bit more balanced with their training, and allow them to have a longer dance career so they continue doing what they enjoy and not end up hurting themselves, actually even permanently down the long run. So that's basically the gist of what I do, that I really enjoy doing. I do have a family with 2 children that I love spending time with. And I know you're going to ask me some questions, so I'll let you go ahead and get started there.
When you said Scottish Highland, and I noticed before we got started, you said, do not say Irish. So is this the thing between the Irish and the Scottish, like Braveheart, the movie or something? Like what is the deal with not wanting to be labeled as Irish dancing in any way?
No, it's a great question. Typically what happens when people say, oh, you do Scottish Highland dancing, that must be like river dance. And that big show, that big production that was really popular. And it's Irish dancing. And the thing is that we actually really like each other. But bottom line, when it comes to dancing, Irish dancing and Scottish Highland dancing are very different. And when you're actually really in those two worlds, they don't collide with each other at all. So the styles are very different once you get to know them, but we're very friendly towards each other. It's just if to understand Irish dancing does not at all explain the world of Scottish Highland dancing. The techniques are very different. The stories behind the dances are extremely different. And so the history is very different where the dances come from.
Is this something like river dance that you would do, obviously pre-COVID, that you would do in front of large audiences like that? Or there's like a touring thing about it? Like, how does that work?
Oh, that is a great question. So Scottish Highland dancing is very competitive in nature. We have championships, world championships. It's basically the Olympics of Highland dancing, but it's also something that does get done in a tour situation. So I'm actually a dance director on the show Highland Echoes, and we do tour, except for this year, of course. And we've done 2 tours the last couple years where it does a production of music and dance to share that with larger audiences. And so I'm involved with finding the dancers and choreographing all the movements that go with those songs.
I'm curious, is this something you would say is your passion? Because the advice everyone always gives is like, find something you're passionate about. You never work a day in your life. Is this something that you would say is like, this is my passion? Or is it just something you've developed a liking for and you're very good at?
Absolutely my passion. And I can tell you that because I started, like I said, when I was 5, and it has basically opened up a lot of doors. It's one of those things, it's not even something you can really say in words. It's more of a feeling. Like when I hear the music, typically it's done to bagpipes, but Celtic music has a lot of fiddle, the borin for the drums, that kind of thing. All of those kinds of beats and measures and music that you hear, it just evokes this nice, like warm feeling within me. It sounds a little cheesy, but honestly, it's just this pride. And I enjoy it. And it's not so much work. I mean, is it hard to do? It's very stressful on the body. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of aches and pains and frustrations that go with it, but you can get through those because it's something that you passionately enjoy doing. And I truly feel that way.
Ivy obviously knows you. I do not. I'm getting to know you tonight. But the purpose of doing this interview series is so we can share people from different backgrounds and have different experiences with one main goal, which is somebody's going to hear something, it's going to relate to them, it's going to connect with them, and they're going to say, oh, I love that, right? And maybe they'll explore something that they've been putting off because they hear some inspiration in you. So we're going to ask you a series of questions now that we've gotten to know you a little bit, that may seem like all over the map in the type of questions they are, but they really have the purpose of people hearing what you answer it with, and then maybe something sparks or they connect with it, and then that'll help them take action to hopefully live their best life. So I'm going to start out with the first question after we've gotten to know you, which is, if I was a genie and could grant you one wish, what would be your wish and why?
My wish would be to be patient with myself. because being a person who has type A personality, I expect perfection within myself. And I think that's something I was probably born with, but being set into a world of perfection with dancing, that only kind of makes that bigger. And oftentimes what happens is you don't take the time to breathe and understand that your goals are short. They take patience, and one day will not be enough all the time to get to your goal. And a lot of times I find that I get frustrated with myself because I have this goal in mind and it's not happening like as quickly as I think it should. But the only person who thinks it should happen that quickly is me. It's not the expectation of others that's making me do that. And so I feel that if I could just take a step back and say, you know, it's okay to be patient with yourself. I'm patient with other people. I'm patient with all my dancers. I'm patient with my children. I want to take that and put that towards me and have a little bit more self-compassion and be patient.
So Sandy, one of the things about that question is I'm a genie. That means I can grant you any wish. And most people are going to wish for something that's really big. You wish for something that's awesome, but it's not quite a genie wish. So I'm looking for something that you're like, oh, you're a genie and you get to grant me a genie wish. You know what I really want is this. And I don't know what that is for you. So I'm curious, like, let's challenge yourself right now. It's like, what's your genie wish? You only get one wish. What is it?
Oh my goodness. My genie wish. To be able to dance forever. Pain-free. That would be it. I have danced for so long that, and I'm in great shape with that, but my body at some point will start to break down, and it already has just from, repetition. And if there was anything that could be an impossible wish in real life, but a genie wish, it would be to be able to dance, because the pride I feel, it's just the excitement.
I would love to grant you that wish that you could dance pain-free. My question is, if you had a time machine and you could visit your younger self and offer advice, what would it be?
You know, it's interesting you bring this up, because this is something that I have always thought of. Every year it gets to be more. I wish I'd gone back and told myself to take more opportunities to try something new. I was somebody who I'm somebody still who tends to want to go the safe route because it's comfortable, it's predictable, and it's not anxiety provoking. But when I was a lot younger, I felt like I put up a lot of walls with opportunities to travel more, opportunities to compete in competitions where I might not win, but I'd come out learning more and improving myself better. So pushing myself a little bit more. It's really the fact that I wish I had, instead of said, no, I shouldn't do that, or I don't think so, I don't like that thought, is, you know what, let me try it and I'll get something new out of it. That would be my biggest suggestion for myself. Absolutely.
I don't like this term, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. What would you say, like reflecting back on accomplishments, the things you didn't accomplish, so we're just going to call them failures. What would be a big failure for you that you can think about and share with everybody? And then what was your takeaway? What did you learn from it?
I guess a big failure for me is probably more non-expanding my relationships with my family. And this probably can get kind of deep, so we're going to keep it on the light side. But I feel like as a child, I didn't develop really good relationships with my brother as much. Not that we don't speak anymore, but with family is such an important part, especially now during the pandemic, that I feel like I know my neighbors better than I know members of my family. And the reason why that's important is because I feel I could have been a little bit more selfless and expanded my areas of interest with relationships.
This actually relates to the previous question. So it connects. We said, what'd you learn from it? We also talked about if you could give your younger self advice, right? So the learning point, just to clarify, are you saying that you would have done something differently with your family? Like, what advice would you give to other people because of you realizing maybe you weren't as close or you didn't have the type of relationship you would have hoped to have? What advice would you give people?
To be patient with yourself. I was so driven goal-wise for dancing, that's sort of a one-track mind. And it allowed me to shut out my brother more. It allowed me to, that was the only way I really communicated to my parents. And I feel like if I had sort of set aside that and been more patient with my goals in dancing, that I would have had more time and made more time and been okay with taking the extra time to not focus on practice, but focus on family time, going out for more hikes, going for more bike rides together, just developing that relationship that you can carry on much longer.
It's beautiful. Have you done anything different now since the pandemic to be closer to your family?
Oh, absolutely. With all of us, you know, we're fortunate we can still work from home, and with my children still home all day, we are here 24/7 together. And so we have game nights, which ends up being, you know, different games you rotate through. We're reading Harry Potter right now out loud. I have younger children, so we sometimes let them pick games that have just allows them to be creative. Even if, you know, it's not a real structured game, they have the opportunity to be excited about sharing something with their parents. So that's something that kind of goes back to what I was saying is I'm trying to use this time now to develop our family, develop the relationship with my children with each other as siblings, as well as with my husband and me as their parents. So that's what we do. And you know, I did a Halloween scavenger hunt for my kids just so that we had something to do and we can go out and have fun. And even though we're not seeing anybody, you know? So that's what we try to focus on.
What are bad recommendations you hear in your profession or areas of expertise?
So I think one of the biggest things that really frustrate me is that there tends to be a focus on this is the one way and the only way to do diet and nutrition and the one and the only way to work out. So in other words, everybody's journey's got to follow on the same path. And I am not a believer of that at all. It's always great to have references and to refer back to one diet or one way of somebody who's working out, but that is not the end all be all. Everybody has their own journey to be on, to learn and discover. And so in my field, I find that people often try to pigeonhole, you know, dancers into one way or the other and not realize that they're an individual person who has individual needs that will be having to be adjusted throughout their journey.
This has been a big discussion with Ivy and I think a lot of coaches, which is we tend to say your life is a reflection of your habits. So if you look back at the habits you have in your life, or if it's not a habit, maybe it's just like a belief system that you have, what would you say the habit or belief system that's had like the biggest impact on your life?
I think the biggest habit or belief system for me that's had a huge impact on my life is, I had to think about this really a bit, but it's just knowing that doing anything is better than doing nothing. So if I'm stuck with moving forward on a goal or staying on track with something, it's let's just try one small thing and make a change and see where it goes, as opposed to being scared to make a change and not moving anywhere, or just sitting there and being indecisive about it. So that's really the biggest thing, is do something, anything, to get away from doing nothing.
If I could be more specific, I'm looking for something like as simple as, you know, what's a great habit for me is I get up every morning and I brush my teeth. Hopefully you do that anyway, but I'm looking for like a specific habit, right? That you do. And you're like, you know, what's been big for me is that I do this every day.
One habit that I always do, because I've planned out when I'm going to do my own personal training workouts, is I always get up and I have my gear ready, my shoes ready, my workout clothes ready. So I know that I can make sure I'm ready and set to go. And that's how I make it happen. So if I'm going to do my own training and focus on my time during my day, I'm going to have my shoes and my gear on and set to go. And I may end up walking the dog in that gear. I'm going to be cooking breakfast, getting my kids ready, but I'm dressed and ready to go, because that way it happens.
I love that habit because I can relate. I have a morning routine that I've been practicing for years. And every morning when I get up, part of that routine is to have my gym bag ready, whether it's a swim day, whether it's a lifting day, I used to go to your classes. I missed that.
Yes.
I really missed that. And it was just so much fun to sit with you in the front row and interact. That's one of the things I loved about us, but that's a great habit. I like it. What's the biggest surprise that you've had in the last few months and why?
Aside from, of course, the whole pandemic being a bit of a surprise, what has sort of come out of that is um, my ability to expand a bit more of my online business. So it has been a bit, I mean, if there's a silver lining for me personally, it has allowed me to be able to take my online focus for my business and actually have a reason to expand it. Before, it was sort of something that I was sort of hybrid, meaning I'd be doing training in person, and then always in the back of my head, I'd want to expand reaching my audience, my dancers, more worldwide. But I hadn't really had the extra motivation to do it. I needed a little kind of kick in the rear end to do it. And this is it. This was enabling me to have a little bit more vision online, more presence online. And so people take classes online solely because that's the only thing we can do. So it has expanded the business for me personally. I'm very fortunate for that.
So Sandy, if you think back, I know we've asked you a bunch of obscure questions and they have a point, right? People, again, you're sharing, but if you could think back to something you're like, you know what, I thought you would have asked me, you would have asked me that. So what's the question we should have asked you that we didn't ask you?
What's your favorite food? That's a big question that people tend to ask because for some reason, I think people think it reveals a lot about somebody. But that's my question is, what's your favorite food? I think it tells a lot about a person and their joy. And my favorite food, honestly, and it surprises people, it's ice cream. And what I mean by food is it's not something I really live off of, but ice cream has been something that I enjoyed sharing with my parents. And I didn't have a strong relationship with my parents, but I look back on those memories and enjoy that. It's something I can share with my children and those experiences. It's something I can share with older, my grandparents when they were alive. It was something I remember doing. And guess what? You can even learn somebody's personality based on the flavors they pick or how it's prepared. So that's the question. What's your favorite food? I think it tells a lot about a person and their personality.
That's hysterical. I would not know how to answer that question about food. There's too many options out there. But if I was going to say ice cream, it would be mint chocolate chip. So there, that's my favorite flavor. How do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of the things within your role?
So I continue to learn by, when we could attend in person, I would definitely go to a lot of workshops. There's a lot of Highland dance workshops around that are very important to attend to for networking, of course, just like any other career. So I do those. I also instructed a lot of workshops around the world and when I could travel. So now they're just done virtually. I also find it's extremely helpful to sit in on this dance teachers and how they interact with their students in their own classes. So I talk to a lot of dance teachers to get their knowledge and feedback on how they're instructing their students, because there's such a wide variety of teaching out there, and what dancers are receiving varies greatly. And from my perspective as someone who provides cross training and wellness services for dancers, it's important for me to understand what dancers are receiving from their teachers. So I do actually physically call up random dance teachers, and do many kind of interaction on the phone, get a little mini interview to find out what they're looking for, what they need, what they find helpful, that kind of thing. So I think it's a direct one-on-one with people to learn their experiences, and to stay abreast of any other situation. It's really, we don't have a lot of research that comes out on a regular basis, like as if you were working in science field or any other kind of more professional field that way. But you see it through the people. That's where we get a lot of the education to stay abreast of the information going out there.
As you said, it's not the same as a technical field, right? I was thinking about continuing education. A lot of fields have stuff like that. But have there been adjustments over time? Like where there's like a new style or there's something different where they're like, wow, like that's a different approach to what I've been doing for all these years. That would, that would challenge the status quo, and that you'd be like, oh, I'm going to go to that workshop and learn that different approach or style to this type of dance.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, that's where I come in. That's what I do. For so many years, dancing, Scottish Highland dancing is very technical. It's followed by a book by a Scottish official board of Highland dance. And all they do is focus on technique. And it is quite the change to introduce focuses on flexibility, range of motion, foam rolling, self-care, nutrition, hydration, all those things that we typically see when you refer to another athlete. Those things are important, right? They are not talked about much in the Highland dance world. They only talk about foot position and placement at competitions, but they don't talk about the mental preparation that goes into it. They don't talk about, sleep and recovery and all those other aspects that really make a dancer's well-being so important so they can perform at their best. And that's what I do. So yes, when we have workshops, I volunteer. I actually reach out to people, and I have to do it knowing I might get a no. And this is where I have to get over my fear of no or fear of, maybe they won't like what I have to offer. But that's because it's not the status quo right now. It's something that my goal of my business is to make sure people see dancers, Scottish Highland dancers in particular, as people who have to really take care of their whole being, mind and body.
This podcast is all about people living their best life. So if you can think about how you live your best life and just give one piece of advice to the audience, what would it be that helps you live your best life?
To live my best life, it's really about finding that feeling inside you that makes you excited. What is it that makes you excited about getting up in the morning? And in all honesty, I get excited about helping dancers because I understand their commitment, their level of commitment, and I understand how much work they go into doing it. It's so hard to do on the body. It can be very frustrating at times. But that's really what it is I enjoy helping dancers reach their goals. And it just makes me excited to get up in the morning knowing that I'm going to look forward to going to see this dancer or to teach this class and see them actually achieving goals and getting stronger one by one over time. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't dread having to go do my job. I get excited about it. That's really what it is. What is that feeling of, wow, I'm really looking forward to doing this. That's what it is for me.
Where can our listeners find you and connect with you online?
Oh, absolutely. I'm on Facebook, Fit for Real by Studio Fit. I'm also on Instagram, Fit for Real. And you can find my website as well at www.studiofitonline.com. I have online group classes happening regularly. I do one-on-one consultations, and you can also find me on YouTube. I don't usually push YouTube too much for my particular case, but I post a lot of just exercises on there that are great for everybody. And that's under Sandy Gribbin.
Ivy mentioned she used to like going to your class. So is your class only for people who are into Scottish Highland dancing, or does it have other purposes as well? So share, what's the kind of audience that would ever come to a class, and what does a class look like for you?
Ivy used to come to my classes at the gym because I enjoy just teaching cycling and Pilates, and for the general public. I do that because I enjoy it. It's a passion of mine just as a side thing. And I miss doing that right now because of COVID. But my typical classes I offer now online are catered towards Highland dancing in the sense that, we include Highland dance movements, but you don't have to be a Highland dancer to participate. It's a great class to get strength. It's a great class to get interval training. I also do a core Pilates class. And while I do talk about things like posture and turnout, we're still addressing the same muscles that really are helpful for most of the people in the population, and core strength is a big one, right? We all need a little bit more core strength. We all need some more flexibility to have better back movement, that kind of thing. We address all of those. I just have different terminology for applying it for dancers.
So if you were to make an appeal to the target audience, like, I know you could say it's everybody, but if there was like an ideal fit of a person, what would be the ideal fit of a person who should hear about you and go, oh, I'd like to check that out?
Dancers that want to get stronger, that are feeling like they're kind of run down ragged with trying to do more Scottish Highland dance practice, and they're not actually reaching their goals. They're overtraining their bodies and they're having a lot of overuse injuries. So we balance out the overuse injuries in those classes. And that's really what it is. You don't have to be ultra competitive in Highland dancing, but it's a great way for dancers to continue to get stronger without beating up their bodies the way Highland dancing can do if you do it day in and day out.
Thank you so much. One of the big beliefs that Ivy and I have is that emotion is created through motion, or the way you use your body. And I think you are living the life of a person who uses your body to create a great life for yourself and produce a lot of good emotions. So I think there's a lot that people can take away and learn from you. And we appreciate it so much that you came on here today and shared your story and answered these interesting questions for our audience.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We loved it, Sandy. Thank you again. And that's a wrap, everybody. Have a great one.